Hello, welcome to Vindicast number 5. I have a game today that is from the European ladder. It is a Zerg versus Terran, and it is a diamond level replay. I chose this replay out of the ones I've been getting because it is from the European ladder, and I am as eager as anybody to see how this is going to look different than maybe games would look on the North American ladder, which is what I usually cast. So, we have the red Terran spawning down here in the bottom right of Shakuras Plateau. He is owning. And in the top left, we have the blue Zerg login. We have the GLHFs coming up right now. Okay, so I haven't made one of these videos in a little while. This weekend was IPL 4, for those of you that watched it. It was a very, very interesting tournament. Really, really stacked. One of the most competitive tournaments I think I've seen in quite a while. I was actually really hoping that Marine King Prime would come through and take the whole thing, but unfortunately he was first knocked down by the eventual champion Alive and then knocked out by Squirtle, who was the number 2. And some of the best PBTs I've seen. If you guys haven't seen the games between Marine King Prime and Startail Parting from the GSTL that also took place that weekend, you definitely need to see that. Some of the highest rated TVP that I think I've ever seen. And we also had some really good Zerg versus Terrans going on that same weekend. We had MMA versus Stefano, which was just a absolute clinic on how to play high-level ZBT. And we saw Nesty versus Alive also. And I really, really liked that game. I liked it because it was, or that entire series I really liked. But Game 2 in particular, Daybreak, Nesty versus Alive. Nesty ends up taking that game, and he does it using a little bit old school now Ling Bling Muta style, which is kind of taking a back seat to this more Stefano style upgraded Zergling Infester into Ultralisk or Broodlord tech. That's been the dominant metagame style, at least from what I've seen at the professional level lately. And say what you want about whether it's more effective or less effective than the Ling Bling Muta style, but it's definitely, in my opinion, more fun to watch players playing that Zergling, Baneling, Mutalist style because it's so volatile, and the control that both players need to have is just so high. I really like it a lot. If you get a chance to see Alive versus Nesty, it's definitely a series I would recommend. Alright, so far we have the standard game coming out from both players right now. We do have 2 gas coming down from the Terran, though, which would signify that he's probably be going for some sort of early tech, usually Banshees, or possibly even Fast Siege mode, or even a Thor Rush. This is a diamond level replay, like I said before, and because it's on the European ladder, I really do not know what to expect, but it does look like we're going to be seeing an expansion here, too. So we have an expansion coming down after double gas coming from the Terran, and we also have the 15 hatch with the spawning pool standard play out of the Zerg. This is Shakuras Plateau, which makes siege tank play on this map more than popular. I don't think we're going to be seeing... Oh, we might. Just as I was about to say, I don't think we're going to be seeing a Hellion expand on this map, just because Hellions, in my opinion, are not as effective here because you really can't use them offensively. You have to use them really only as early map control. It's very difficult to actually get up one of these ramps and into the main base or the natural because both of these ramps are easily defended by either queens or spine crawlers. But we do have the expansion coming down here. We do have the reactor going up on the barracks, which would signify some kind of early Hellion build. It might just be that he's going to make Marines out of that and go straight into siege tank production. We do have double engineering bays coming down, so it is definitely going to be not a mech style, but probably more of a biomech style out of the Terran. The Zerg, as we can see, is really just droning up. He's already up to 21 drones to 19. He is putting down that spine crawler. His Overlord timing, I guess, is not quite optimal, but that's okay. He's still a little bit ahead of the Terran player, who's starting his +1 on his infantry upgrades. So he's definitely going to be going for a little bit more of a longer game. He's not going to be doing any sort of big, huge siege tank marine timing push that's going to try and kill the Zerg early on. He's already taking his expansion down. He's going to be going for a little bit for the later game. The Zerg, on the other hand, is just now getting up a Roach Warren. This is definitely a good idea. I was just talking to my brother about this earlier today, actually. about how you should be building, if you were the Zerg player, every single tech structure you reasonably can. It's only 150 minerals, and in a case where your opponent would be going mass Hellion, which the Terran isn't, you have those roaches just in case you need them. You can make them. And you can also use the Roach Warren also, which she's kind of doing, as kind of like a SimCity to also kind of prevent Hellions from getting into your base. But it's just like something I was thinking about how Zerg will just neglect building their tech structures when they don't really need them. But it's just a good idea to have them just as a precaution anyway. We do have a second factory coming down from the Terran, even before a second barracks. That's interesting to me. We already saw that he was going for the double infantry upgrades, but he's not even getting a second barracks before he gets his second factory down. We have the Hellions over here. This is what you want to do with Hellions. Because you can't use them to get up this ramp. See, he's not going to get up this ramp. There's a spine crawler here. There's a queen that can easily block the secondary ramp leading into the main. He's not getting up this ramp. But what you have to do with these Hellions is prevent the Zerg from spreading that creep too early into the map. Now, he did miss this creep tumor, so he would have to scan to kill it, which he doesn't want to right now. But he is parking those Hellions out there so that when the next tumor comes up, he'll be able to kill it while it's still visible. Alright, we have double siege tank production probably going to be going down soon from the Terran, so he's going to be getting out a lot of siege tanks pretty quick, which goes back into what I said about this map. This map is very popular in Terran versus Zerg because of the layout of the middle. It really makes siege tanks very effective. Okay, we do have roaches and lings coming out here, just trying to get those Hellions out of the way so that they can reestablish the creep spread, because the Terran does want to limit the amount of creep that the Zerg can get, but the Zerg just likewise wants to get creep as far onto the map as early as they possibly can, because that makes it so much easier to defend expansions and to kill Terran armies as they have to traverse across creep. The Hellions have been brought back into the base. They're not occupying the towers, which is what I think they should be doing at the moment, but I think the Terran is just a little concerned that there might be some sort of roach counterattack coming. And he might be right. We do have 9 roaches coming out. So the Zerg is up to 87 supply, and of that, we have, well, I don't know how to check army supply at the moment. Okay, there we go. 43 army supply to 23. So it does look like he is going to be putting on some sort of counterattack pressure, but this is not going to work. Alright. I guess we had a pause in game right there. The Zerg's going to get one shelling from the siege tank up here, and he's probably going to pull back. There is no way that roach counterattacks once siege tanks are out are going to work on this map. You really need to have like drop play or something like that to get through. But the Zerg is really like investing a lot into this counterattack. I guess he just is not taking the Terran seriously. Like, this is not the right map that you would do this on. This is something you would more likely see on a map like Antigua Shipyard maybe, or Tal'Darim Altar, but not Shakuras Plateau. This has the easiest to defend natural in StarCraft 2. Oh! Oh no! Just as I'm saying all this, the Terran decides that he's going to push out. That is not what he wants to do. He can crush this army easily if they're trying to go up this expansion, but if he's going to fight them out in the open, and the Terrans aren't even sieged! They're not even sieged! He doesn't see this coming! Oh, he's probably going to lose his entire army! The roaches aren't firing, though. The roaches aren't firing. He needs to be target firing siege tanks. He needs to be target firing siege tanks. He's not. He gets one siege tank down. Will he get a second one? He doesn't get a second siege tank down. Okay, that was really poorly handled by both players. Very poorly handled by both players. The Terran player did manage to get out ahead there, and because he was able to kill off more of the Zerg army, but the Zerg had a really good opportunity to snipe multiple siege tanks, which at this stage in the game, especially with the heavy investment that the Terrans put into siege tank production already, would really have set him far behind. But the Zerg is taking a third base behind this. That was probably the purpose of this pressure to begin with, but I think he really needs to focus more on his economy at this point. We do have Thors coming out here. Alright, this is not a build I'm very familiar with seeing. He does go for those early infantry upgrades, but he is focusing more on factory units than he is on infantry units right now. I would think that he'd be putting down multiple barracks. Okay, we do have a secondary attack. The siege tanks still aren't sieged. We have banelings coming in. They are going to be taking down a good portion of this army. He should be getting that Thor. He should target fire that Thor. Alright, the Thor goes down. He should be target firing siege tanks with the roaches that do remain. He gets one more siege tank. Not a bad trade for the Zerg overall. Not a bad trade. Although he is still behind in resources, he is managing to prevent the Terran from getting a scary enough army to push across the map. And he is taking a third base behind us, although he isn't saturating it. Worker supply is still in the Zerg's favor, but not when you factor in mules. That 3 additional drones is not going to really give him an income advantage when the Terran has the ability to call down those mules from those orbital commands. Macro hatch going down, Baneling speed's on the way. Looks like he's going to be transitioning out of primarily Roach Tech into mostly Zergling Baneling, which is an interesting decision considering that he knows that his opponent is already making a heavy factory unit composition. Okay, so I am not quite sure how this is going to play out from here. The Zerg is making 11 more Roaches. He is very persistent in making sure that he maintains control of the middle of the map, which, now that I think about it, is probably a good idea, because if the Terran does take control of the middle of the map, it's very difficult for the Zerg to regain control of it once siege tanks have been set up at these watchtowers. So he is mostly interested in making sure the Terran doesn't even get that far. He wants to kill him as he's moving out from the base each time that he does his army. But he is not taking enough of an economic advantage, I feel. He has these 3 bases, he does have a presence in the middle of the map, but he isn't making any more drones. It's almost like he wants to kill him right now. But like I said already, okay, forget what I'm about to say. Here comes the Zerg army, the Banelings are going to be coming in, they're going to be blowing down that wall. The siege tanks are siege, the Zerg is going to lose the majority of this army, but how much of the Terran army is he going to be killing in the process? He does kill a lot. He does kill a lot of units, and all those siege tanks are very badly damaged. That Thor, both of those Thors are badly damaged as well, but the Zerg lost his entire army composition to do that. He needs to remake Roaches. He needs to either remake Roaches or get a ton of Zerglings out and flank this army. There aren't a lot of Hellions in there. This is mostly siege tanks and Thors. But those mech units are upgraded already. They do have the 1-0 attack. That means these Hellions are going to be pretty effective against those Zerglings, and these Thors are going to be doing a lot of damage to Roaches if they get them out. The Zerg army is already upgraded to 1-1, but the Roaches haven't been upgraded. It's only the Zerglings and the Banelings that have been upgraded. And he is switching into Infestor Tech behind this, but once again, he doesn't have the saturation that he should have right now at this point in the game. He's up to 68 drones, so I guess that is pretty good, but he should have been sitting on that already for a little while. It looks like the Zerg will be able to hold this off. The Terran's taking his time, and he doesn't have a lot of buffer units in that army. He's going to lose a couple of these Overlords that will not supply block the Zerg. He does need to get that other Overlord out of there. Alright, Terran is clearing away creep. I think he's overextending himself at this point. Oh, that Zerg is going to catch him while he's not sieged. Oh, that's a big move. Big move right there. He needs to target fire those siege tanks. That is really... That right there is the power of upgraded siege tanks in siege mode. He had the opportunity to snipe down those tanks with those Roaches, but he just didn't take the opportunity. So he did lose a lot of that army, but the Terran still is not very far ahead. It is 107 supply to 97 supply. The Terran is slightly ahead, and the Zerg is ahead mostly in supply from worker count. Alright, Terran is managing to contain the Zerg out here, and honestly, this is actually going to be kind of tough. He is bringing SCVs up here, so he's going to be repairing these siege tanks, and Terran is going for a hard contain with +3 vehicle weapons on the way. Is he going to take a third behind this, though? He is going to be taking his time. He must know that it's going to be difficult for him to assault up that ramp. I guess he isn't. He's going to use those he's going to use those SCVs to buffer. Those siege tanks are getting into siege mode, but the Zerglings are getting in melee range. Each siege tank killed is so vital at this point, but there's 2 more siege tanks coming in. But I think the Zerg will just be able to hold this. Alright, all the tanks are down. All the tanks are down. The Terran only has 2 more siege tanks left. He is making a 3rd command center behind this, but he has yielded completely the map control that he once had. And the Zerg is now at this point going for hive tech. He's getting that Spire down. He will probably be able to transition into Broodlords before the Terran can make another concerted attack. But he is only still on 3 base. He should definitely be taking a 4th base behind this. You just killed a Terran army. You just are able to like actually breathe again. Okay, here he goes. He is doing the right decision by taking that 4th base up here. But what's the Terran going to do about this? He still hasn't researched combat shields. He isn't using medevacs for those Marines. He's mostly just using those Marines for filler while he makes a primarily Thor siege tank army. This means that also that his anti-air is going to be severely lacking by the time those Broodlords come out. He is going to have to transition into Viking tech. He does have the starport down with the reactors, so he can make some Vikings, but he's going to have to start making them soon. Otherwise, he's going to be caught unawares by the time these Broodlords come out. Okay, we have another attack coming in from the Terran, but this attack is not very large. What do we have here? We got 4 siege tanks, a handful of Marines, and 2 Thors with no SCVs coming up. He might just be doing this to protect his newly established third base, which is probably what he's going to be doing. Okay, this is a good defensive position for the Terran. He is going to be establishing this third base, but he has to start switching tech. What does the Terran know about what the Zerg is doing? The Terran knows nothing about what the Zerg is doing. I mean, if you find yourself in a position like this where you've just lost your army to the Zerg, you have to know that he's doing something back there. Is he expanding more? Is he making a higher unit composition? Or is he just massing up and trying to steamroll you? That's what scans are for. That's what scans are for. That's what SCV scouts are for. We have no scouting coming out from the Terran, which is probably going to be his downfall if he does indeed lose this expansion. But he is investing a lot into this defense, and this is going to be a very difficult situation to break without Broodlords. But the Zerg does have Broodlords. So he is getting this Infestor Broodlord Zergling composition. He doesn't have Corruptors, though. And I guess, did the Terran actually get a good idea of what he was doing? He doesn't. I guess he's just assuming at this point that the Broodlords might be a possibility, because he does have 2 Vikings in production. He will have 2 Vikings out, but that is 5 Broodlords. 6 Broodlords. That is 6 Broodlords. 2 Vikings is not enough against 6 Broodlords. Those Marines do have stim. There are no medevacs out, so Fungal Growth can do a lot of damage to these Marines if he decides that he's going to use Fungals on the Marines and not the Vikings. And Zerg is taking his 5th base behind this. So the Zerg is getting further and further ahead as this game goes on. It's 170 unit supply to 150. The Terran is mostly just saturating that 3rd base. His main is mined out. He does not look like he's even interested in taking a 4th base. Or, just as I say that, he's going to be moving out. Probably, yeah, he's going to be establishing a 4th base up there. And the Zerg, for all I've said about the lack of Terran scouting, the Zerg is not really scouting that much either. I don't think he does know that the Terran does have that 4th base. That 3rd base, excuse me. He does know the Terran does have that 3rd base. He does see that he does have Vikings out. I think that might be what's preventing him from attacking, because if he has a couple Vikings, he might be making more. But you can actually just steamroll through that with Broodlords if you've got Corruptors. He does have Corruptors. Those Vikings are going to automatically start target firing Corruptors first because they're shooting back at them. What's probably going to be ending up happening here is that the Zerg is going to wait until he maxes out, and then he's going to move out. He does have production to really remax on this once he's able to, and from what I've seen in this sort of position, he probably was going to remax on Roaches once he's able to significantly reduce that siege tank count. And he'll probably be able to do that with the Broodlords, but there are more Vikings in there are more Vikings out on the field now. There aren't any more in production yet, but he's definitely able to make more. And the reason why he wasn't making any more Vikings is because he was supply blocked, which he was able to fix with a supply drop. Okay, the Zerg is slowly giving away his army lead. I think he is going to wait for Neural Parasite. That's probably what's going to end up happening here. The Neural Parasite is... He's going to go for Neural Parasite on Thors instead of using the energy to fungal Marines. Okay, this is what I meant about the difficult position with that siege tanks put you in, but here we go. Here come the Banelings. Fungal Growth on everything. Banelings are going to come through and smash through everything. The Banelings just destroyed everything in there, and here comes the Neural Parasite. That should be a good game. That is a huge loss for the Terran. That is a huge loss. We got 56 more Zerglings in production. We have almost no troops left for the Terran. These Broodlords are going to start putting siege onto this planetary fortress. We just gotta wait for those Zerglings to come out to just finish the killing blow on the Terran. If you can get Zerglings into this natural, it's over. Okay, there we go. Okay. There's a lot I want to say about that. First of all, this unit composition that he was using, if you're going to open mech, you really want to go for a Hellion opening more so than Marines at the start. He was really using a very strange unit composition. It was like he wanted to go bio to begin with, and then decided like halfway through that he was going to swap into mech production, and he just really wasn't playing mech the way that I feel mech should be played. He started doing that towards later on in the game when he took this expansion and started sieging up here, because that's what you need to do with mech. You need to get on 3 bases as quickly as you can, because mech is very, very gas intensive. Secondly, once he actually took the middle position with the map, he actually had a really good position here. When we had those Terran units here at the Xel'Naga Watchtower, which is back here a little bit. No, further forward. Alright, let's fast forward a little bit to where the Terran has taken this position at the Xel'Naga Watchtower. Okay, you see how he has everything clumped up here at the Xel'Naga Watchtower? This is really the part of Shakuras Plateau that gives Zerg players a headache. The chokes, there are 3 different chokes leading into this open area where siege tanks can see. You need to spread your tanks out in a line like that, covering the entire middle of this utilizing both watchtowers so you can spot for your tanks. You position your tanks in a line. That will prevent what just happened here, because if you're all clumped up like this, it gives the Zerg a really nice opportunity to do exactly what the Zerg player just did. This is a really expensive Terran army. We have a total of 123 supply in army right here. Really good army. Combination of Marines, siege tanks, with +3 as a matter of fact. No upgrades on the Vikings, and only 2-2 on the Marines with no medevacs, but still a pretty substantial army anyway. And the Zerg, he doesn't even need to do anything fancy to kill this. All he's got to do is get 1 decent fungal off. Everything is clumped up. Look how clumped up everything is here. One fungal growth, the Banelings come through and absolutely decimate everything. That is why you need to spread your tanks out when you can on this map. If you spread them out in a vertical line across the middle, you cannot do what the Zerg player just did with Banelings. You just can't do it, because the Banelings are going to roll in. They can only kill so many tanks at a time. The other tanks are just going to be shelling that line of Banelings as they come in. That would have forced the Zerg player to utilize all choke points at once, or do a slow push using the Broodlords, which would have made them vulnerable to the Viking play. There were other sort of macro mistakes, like I think the Terran could have expanded sooner, and just in general used a different unit composition in the late game. But this key engagement right here was really what decided the game. And had he positioned his tanks differently, and the thing about mech is that tank positioning is everything with mech. If you're going to be using mech and you're not positioning your siege tanks correctly, especially on a map like this where it's easy, in my opinion, to do it, well then you're going to get steamrolled. You're going to get steamrolled by almost anything the Zerg can throw at you. And that's what happened. Okay, well, that was a pretty interesting game. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I will be posting up more of these videos this week now that I have a little bit more free time to devote to them. So if you would like to see your game casted, send me a replay and I will see if I can get to it. Thanks a lot. Good night.